Howie Roseman yesterday, a lot of takeaways, and the best person to kind of give us insight on all those takeaways is on the Boardwalk Honda hotline with us right now, and that is ESPN's Sal Paolantonio as he joins us here on a Sal Pal Friday. It's a special edition of Sal Pal Friday. Sal, how are you, man? How you been?
So things are normal now that I'm on your show on a Friday at 3 p.m. I was looking forward to this all week. Mike Gill, how are you and your family and everybody at the station and all your listeners doing?
We're doing all right. I'm actually sitting on my back porch, just enjoying the fresh air, I guess, for as long as I can, doing the show quarantined for a while here. But, yes, this feels normal, a Sal Pal 3 o'clock Friday. We had to bring back some normalcy, and we got a lot of football, Sal. As the world has hit the pause button, Howie Roseman and the Eagles and the NFL have not. So let's get into some of Howie's stuff yesterday, including his take on the wide receiver position, in which he, suggested that the Texans asked for way too much and that they didn't get involved in the wide receiver market because – contrary to people's belief, they like what they have better than most people do.
Yeah, I don't know what he was talking about there, Mike. Frankly, if you could come away with DeAndre Hopkins and Darius Slay, which I think was definitely doable, I think you would have had a great offseason. I don't think it was a matter of compensation. I think it was a matter of they didn't want to pay a big salary to a corner and a big salary to a wide receiver. They have 67% of their cap taken by 10 players on the team. They're very top-heavy in their salary cap. I think they want to go younger and cheaper. They realize it's a deep draft with a wide receiver position, and if they can get a wide receiver on a rookie contract, that'll be a cheaper way to go. I think it was a mistake, absolutely a mistake, not to trade for DeAndre Hopkins if they had the chance. Let's speculate. Texans wanted a running back. They got David Johnson from Arizona. Let's just say Bill O'Brien, GM head coach of the Texans, called up Howie Roseman and said, I want Myles Sanders at a first pick in 2021. I want your first rounder in 2021, your second rounder in 2020, so this year's second rounder, Myles Sanders for DeAndre Hopkins. I'd do that deal. No question in my mind I'd do it.
Yeah, we've kind of pontificated about that here on the show. Was that what the call was? Hey, if they got David Johnson there, they wanted Myles Sanders here, and did Howie back off because he thought Myles Sanders? Now, he indicated yesterday that the Texans' ask was different than the ask was for the Cardinals. So who knows? But I think I'm in your camp that if they ask for Myles Sanders, I probably have to make that deal.
Oh, you take a number one wide receiver. The guy's the best wide receiver in the conference. You get a chance to take him. Now DeAndre Hopkins is in your conference.
Yeah. That's true. Arizona.
He's in your conference, and that changes the dynamic all the way around. You had a chance to put him in your conference on your team.
Yeah.
So I totally disagree with Howie Roseman. I would have given him a first from 21, a second from 20, and Sanders, and that would have been a better deal than they got from O'Brien. Yeah. A much better deal. Much, much better deal.
Now, speaking of wideout, he called Alshon Jeffrey the elephant in the room, and the priority is to get him healthy. He said he knows what's being said about him, but how difficult will it be? I mean, so many people just assume that they're trying to find out ways to get rid of him, but it seems that even Howie Roseman, the great Howie Roseman, can't find a financial way to make that happen. So it sounds as if they're going to come back. Do you think it sounds as if they're going to come back with Alshon Jeffrey on this roster?
Well, listen, Mike, come on. You're a smart guy. You've been around. You know it was positively pie in the sky that they would be able to trade a guy with a $10 million guaranteed contract in 2020 who's 30 years old, a declining player coming off a Liz Frank injury. It's just not possible. The only way it can happen is if you go into the new CBA and you release him or trade him after June 1. So listen, this is the same team that said that Mike Groh was going to be the offensive coordinator, and then they fired him the next day. So don't put too much stock in what he said about Alshon Jeffrey. I still think it's very possible he could be gone
Huh.
Once he's healthy. Listen, the key thing he said, Michael, is first things first, got to get him healthy. That was open-ended as far as I was concerned. If they get him healthy and they have a trade partner after June 1, I could see him still leaving the team.
Sal Pal with us, Sal Pal Friday here on the Sports Bash. All right, you mentioned Slay. That was the biggest move, which I don't have a problem with this move at all, but does it send mixed signals? You know, he said we're retooling, we got to get younger, and then he trades for a 30-year-old to be corner. I mean, I don't have a problem with the move, so don't think like I'm trying to read too much into it, but does that kind of send mixed signals to you?
Right. You and I are smart enough to know you watch what they do, don't listen to what they say.
Right, exactly.
It's always the case, especially when you're dealing with free agency or the draft. In the off season, watch what they do, don't pay attention to what they say. When this team missed out on the guy from Dallas, Byron Jones.
Byron Jones, yeah.
And they were in the mix for Byron Jones. To me, Byron Jones is not as good as Darius Slay because he doesn't have the picks. He doesn't have the ball skills at the point of attack that Darius Slay does. I like Darius Slay. And if you look at the Eagles' track record of drafting in the 3rd and 5th round in the last 4 years, it ain't that good. So I'd much rather take a 3rd and a 5th and get Darius Slay and say, okay, you're our number 1 corner. But here's the thing. Schwartz knows Slay. Slay in Detroit under Matt Patricia last year traveled to the number 1 wide receiver, whether it was on the left side or in the slot or on the right side. Schwartz doesn't have his number 1 corner travel to the number 1 wide receiver. He leaves him in one spot. So I want to see how Schwartz uses Slay. If he's going to pay him like a number 1 wide receiver, give up draft picks like a number 1 corner, pay him like a number 1 corner, give up draft picks like Slay as a number 1 corner, then let him travel like a number 1 corner and cover the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, and yesterday Howie Roseman said something that raised my eyebrows on what you just said, Sal, which was he said it kind of sounded like the defensive scheme will evolve. He wants to play more man coverage. He wants to allow more flexibility up front, and that Darius Slay should travel around with the guy. So it sounds as if with the personnel changes, they brought in everybody they brought in is on the defensive side of the ball. Younger, faster guys in that secondary, and the big decision to let Malcolm Jenkins walk. So this could be a completely new look defense for Jim Schwartz.
Well, he played predominantly single high safety man coverage last year. The Eagles played it 57% of the time. You're not watching. I mean, you're not going on my Instagram, Sal Pal ESPN. You got to do that, Mike Gill. I got a piece on there about Darius Slay where I talk about how much the Eagles played man coverage last year. So that's a shameless plug for my Instagram. But I mean, they played a lot last year. This is what the NFL does now. Why? Why does the NFL do it? You and I have talked about it. You've seen Greg Cosell and Matt Bowen on the Matchup Show talk about it. Because the ball comes out so quickly now, because quarterbacks are trying to imitate Tom Brady, get it to the wide receivers in 2 seconds or less, you got to play man coverage at the point of attack. You can't give them a cushion. The idea of playing zone coverage with your corners or giving a cushion to wide receivers, that's over with.
Now, Sal, I'd love to get your take on how the whole Jenkins thing kind of was handled and reading the tea leaves on the deal he got with the Saints and what that suggests. Because to me, it suggests they just didn't think he could play anymore, right? I mean, he got a deal that Howie Roseman could have wrote for Malcolm Jenkins. He just decided, I'm not giving that deal because we think we got the most out of you. We got all the wear and tear. Let somebody else take the rest of this deal.
Yeah, we're going to see who's right and who's wrong about that in the end. To me, I think the Eagles should have kept Malcolm Jenkins and paid him. And keep Jalen Mills as an extra corner. Or if you want to rotate him into the safety spot, go ahead.
Yeah.
But I would have kept Jenkins. I definitely would have. I would have found a way to. He was a guy to me where Jeffrey Lurie's got to bring him into the office and say, you're an Eagle for life. And once you're done playing, you're a player coach or you're coming into the front office as an assistant to the head coach or to the general manager. You're too important as a person and as a player. Listen, you read my book. You remember the locker room speech in Los Angeles when Carson Wentz went down in the Super Bowl year, the one that Malcolm Jenkins delivered. We all we need.
Yep.
He saved the season and brought a Super Bowl trophy to Philadelphia. That's worth something, isn't it, Mike?
Well, Sal, I make the argument that the last 2 years, when the season seemed like it was derailed, that Malcolm Jenkins at 5-6 saves those 2 seasons and allows you to get back to the Super Bowl. That's a huge void, whether he could play or not.
Yeah, I agree. Played all the defensive snaps in the last 2 years. Only defensive player in the NFL to do that. Guy's a tough guy, shows up, great leader in the community and in the locker room. I mean, it's a head scratcher for me.
Well, yesterday we had Will Parks on the show, very community-minded guy. He told us about that. Darius Slay, very community-minded guy. I don't know much about Nickel Roby-Coleman, but it seemed like they went out and got a couple of – Will Parks was an entertaining guy, by the way. He was he mentioned that he loved the fact that Doug Peterson told him he was a big Post Malone fan, and that sold him on coming here to play. So he was a fun interview yesterday. But, hey, the message was clear, Sal. Free agency defense, what's the message on draft day?
Offense. You got to take a wide receiver in the first round. And you know me, I want SEC players. And, if they have a chance to get Justin Jefferson from LSU, he, to me, fits the mold of what they need.
Yeah, no more Pac-12 guys, right?
No more Pac-12 guys. Shut down the West Coast scouting operation. No more Andre Dillards. No more J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. No more Freddie Mitchell. No more Nelson Aguilar. None of those guys. I don't want any more of those guys.
Well, that's another one. Jason Peters, he's in limbo. They're going to hand this position to Dillard. There's so much happening this offseason, and we'll keep an eye on it.
It's so little time to get it all together, right, Mike? We just don't know when. I'm looking at it like I don't see an off-season program.
None.
I don't see one. No.
Well, you heard what your colleague Kirk Herbstreit said today. He'd be shocked if there's any football come September.
Don't agree with him. I think there'll be football.
I hope you're right. Sal Pal Friday right here. Sal Pal ESPN on Instagram. And hope you're staying safe, Sal.
Call me anytime, Michael. Let's do it in a couple of weeks. We'll check back in when the calendar turns to April, and we'll turn our attention to the draft.
Absolutely. I'll hold you to it. It's Sal Pal Friday here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. He joined us here on the Sports Bash. Great insight. He said he would have made the deal. In fact, he threw out the deal that Rhodes and I threw out last week for Myles Sanders. And he threw in a first-round pick. Rhodes and I didn't go that far.